Okay, all right, let's see if they can hear me now. A bit of a delay on this. I don't know how well they're going to pick me up. There we go. Okay, all right, let's see if they can hear me now. Okay, you want to mute that? Okay, everybody, we had a little problem with our mic, our external mic, but we switched it. We're going to run an internal mic, so that should be working now. Hopefully the sound is okay for everybody. I think we got that fixed up, and it sounds pretty good on our end, so hopefully it's good on your end. What I was saying, in case you missed it, you could see my lips moving but not hear me. I want to welcome everybody tonight for joining us on this webinar. And if you are in, you followed our link, you registered, and you're at our link, and you are in our special broadcast room, which says you are live with Greg LaBeouf. If you are there right now, you're probably going to see that there is a box there, and that says write your questions in here, and that box is dark. We had some technical difficulty with that box. And so, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to type a question in there tonight, but hopefully you can hear me. Everything is going good for sound and video. And I just want to put this out there. And we're jumping on Facebook Live, and I think Facebook Live just came on. So welcome, Facebook Live. Welcome to our YouTube subscribers. And welcome to everybody who signed up for this and registered for this. This is very important to me. This is absolutely a passion for us. I'm only going to take an hour of your time, so I'm going to move through this quick. But I wanted to do this because for Facebook Live, if you're joining us on YouTube, you guys can type questions and comments. If you have questions, and as I'm going through it, please feel free to type them in, and we'll try our best to answer any questions that you have. For everybody that registered for this, you're seeing that box that says, type your questions here. If it's dark and you can't type it in there, I apologize. There was some technical difficulty with the box, and it's not going to be fixed in time for tonight's webinar. But here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to give you two options. If you have a question and you want it answered, I want you to be able to email me personally. Just send an email to greg@urbancombat.ca, so greg@urbancombat.ca, and I'll answer that question. But if you want it done live right now, I actually want you to be able to send a text message to us. So that's the quickest way, and I'm going to give you my wife's cell phone number. She's our office manager. This is our office phone. You can text 780-267-2078, 267-2078. She's on her phone right now. She's moderating everything. She'll be able to answer any questions. So if you're in our broadcast room live with Greg LaBeouf, then you can text us 780-267-2078. All right, everybody else, thank you for joining me tonight. Listen, tonight we are here to talk about violence. This is a conversation not a lot of people are having. I am passionate about having these conversations. I want to share with you 5 things that you absolutely have to know about violence, or it can cost you your life. Unfortunately, I learned a lot of what I'm going to share with you tonight the hard way. It almost cost me my life, and in the last 3 years, I have lost yet another friend. He was a father to 4 small children, left behind a wife, and he was taken way too soon, and he was taken because of violence. And you know, this is what drives me. This is what fuels me. So I'm going to jump into it because we've got a lot of information, and I really want to respect your time. So if you stay with me to the end, I want to share something really special with you. But let's move off it. So I said that I want to share 5 things with you, and I'm going to use some boards throughout the night, some illustrations and different things. I think it just helps kind of get my point across. But what I want to start with is the number one thing is that nobody told me it was going to be this way. Now I want to give you just a little background. And again, for those that maybe aren't familiar with me, my name again is Greg LaBeouf. I'm the owner and head instructor of the Urban Combat Specialist Group, and we have one passion, and that is to help educate people about violence. That's what we're all about. Now, when I get to this first point, like I said, I want to jump right in. Nobody told me it was going to be this way. You see, from a very young age, as a small kid, I loved, martial arts. I loved, combative sports. I was training. I was always involved in some form of martial arts. I was in kickboxing, Thai boxing, all that type of stuff. I love that. And why I share that with you is simply because I think a lot of people have an interest in martial arts, self-defense, combative sports, wrestling, whatever it happens to be. I was the same way. Now, there's kind of 2 streams of people. When people are interested in that stuff, they either want it for the sport aspect, the fitness aspect, something along those lines, or they want it because they want to defend themselves. I was in it because I wanted to learn to defend myself. That was very important to me. And as a young man, I really felt that was part of what it was to be a man. That was kind of the culture I was brought up in. So although I was in these kind of traditional arts and these sports, I wanted to know how to defend myself. And what I mean when I say that nobody told me it was going to be this way is that at a very pivotal point in my life, 18, 19 years old, when you're transitioning from a young boy trying to figure out what it is to become a man, I was involved in a very violent assault. And I use it kind of illustrate it to something very serious, but I just illustrated this drawing because I just want to go real quick and see nobody told me what it was going to be like. You see, in all of my training, what they were doing, I thought I was learning to defend myself, but what was really happening was that I was being taught to recognize certain things. Now, these things, it would appear that they are connected to violence. See, I was learning how to throw punches and how to throw kicks. I was learning all these different techniques, and I was learning to recognize what it looked like to see a punch coming in or a kick coming in or anything like that. And so I had made a correlation in my mind. I had believed that when I was learning to do these physical things, I was learning to train, do all that type of stuff, that I was learning to defend myself from violence. But see, what happened was one night when I was out, I was involved in an assault. And I say that, and that sounds funny when I say that. I was involved in an assault, like I was a willing participant of this. I wasn't. I was assaulted. That's probably sounds a little better. And this picture just illustrates it in a, it's kind of funny looking at this. But I was out, and I was out with a group of friends, and we were celebrating a birthday party. And it started actually with 3 individuals, and I never saw these 3 individuals coming. I didn't know who they were. They didn't know who I was. Turns out later we found that they believed I was somebody different. So it was a case of mistaken identity. But these 3 individuals came up, and I was sitting there, and next thing I know, boom, I got punched in the face, like from behind. Didn't see it coming. Now, that wasn't what got me. That really didn't even hurt. But I stood up, and I turned around, and I remember looking and thinking, what was it? I wasn't even sure if I'd actually been hit. And I remember just seeing this, it's a room full of people. It was a pub, and there was, 200 people in the room. But I remember seeing these 3 individuals standing in front of me, and they're just standing there. And I didn't recognize anything. I looked at them. I didn't recognize them. I looked around. They were just standing. I thought, it can't be them. But I'll make a long story short. I mean, just fractions of a second later, I figured out it was them. But how I figured it out is the middle guy grabbed me. And when he grabbed me, I remember thinking, oh, it was him, and I must have got hit. And the time it took me to process that, the gentleman standing off, I use that term very loosely, but the guy standing to the right of him literally looked at the bar, reached over, picked up a beer bottle by the neck, and smashed me right from the top of my eye all the way down to my cheek. Not once, not twice, but 3 times while we're standing, while the third guy helped the middle guy shove me. So 2 were shoving me backwards, and 1 was hitting me with a bottle. We went through about 10 tables, knocked about 50 people out of the way, ended up lying on the ground on my back with 2 guys on top of me, pinning my arms and holding my head. So I couldn't turn my head. My head was stuck. The third guy, the guy with the bottle, sat on top of him. And I remember, never forget this, as calm as could be, not in a panic. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't fast. He sat there, put the bottle to my head, wound up and hit me, what I remember, at least another 5-6 times. At that point, I don't remember much after that point on the inside. And just sat there. The thing that really struck me as odd is that every time he hit me, he looked at the bottle in absolute disbelief that the bottle didn't break. And I remember at that moment thinking, he's actually trying to break the bottle. He's trying to kill me. He's not fighting me. He's trying to kill me. And then I remember just blacking out. Well, what had happened is security came. I use that term loosely as well. They picked us all up. They literally threw me, even though I was desperately in need of medical attention at that point. They threw me out one door. And literally another door was about 30 feet away. They threw the 3 of them, which really wasn't 3. It was more like a group of 8. Threw them out the other door. And guess what? Well, they saw a victim. They saw somebody they had assaulted in the parking lot, staggering. I don't remember really any of that, bleeding profusely. And so, again, the assault continued. And this is pretty much what it ended up looking like. The only thing is we drew about 4 people. At the end, it was about 10 people. And they were jumping on my head and kicking me and stomping me. And we drew 4 people here standing around watching. Actually, it's about 150 people standing around watching. And see, I don't want to get too much into the detail of this, other than to say that this was an encounter for me with violence. And what I want to share with you, see, nobody told me to see, I had been training. Matter of fact, I was, at that point in time, I was very blessed and fortunate to have met 2 gentlemen that were, one was ranked 7th in the world, and the other one was training to become a professional fighter, well on his way. Big, strong guys, both bigger than I was, stronger than I was, and, professionally ranked fighters, and I got to be a sparring partner for them. And what was interesting is that I actually understood fighting. I knew what a punch looked like. I knew what a kick looked like. You know what it is to be a sparring partner? It's a professional heavy bag. I was really good at taking some really big ass whoopings. I got very good at that. And every now and then, I was actually good enough to get a little something in on them. But when I experienced this, 8, 10 people, You know, being bottled like that, being, you know, assaulted, being swarmed like that. We call it a blitz. And then being thrown out a door and then being, again, mauled in the parking lot. What I found out later was that it was a couple of girls that went over to security who was now just standing with 150 people, just standing there watching it all. And I guess finally one of them said, if you don't stop it, they're going to kill them. Like that thought never entered anybody's mind as they watched me lying there. And I guess people were running from 20 feet back, jumping and landing on my head. And, you know, it was something, I'll tell you that. I'm glad that I don't remember a lot of it. But here's the thing, and, you know, I don't know how many people have experienced violence, but the first tip was that nobody told me it's going to be this way. Let me jump forward a little bit, because there's lots of details I could put with that. But what's important tonight is this. You see, after a violent assault, after real violence touches us, you see, of course, most times there's a trip to the hospital. I was very blessed and fortunate it wasn't the morgue. I came as close as to losing my right eye. I want to share a couple things. You see, about 6 or 7 months after the incident, I could look at my driver's license, look in the mirror, and not recognize myself. The physical injuries were that severe. It took a long time for the physical, almost a year for the physical injuries to fully go away, but I'm blessed. There was no permanent long-term damage. I had a lot of short-term memory problems for a long time and stuff, but here's the thing I really want to share. After that happened, it wasn't the physical injuries. Like I said, I was very fortunate. My physical injuries began to heal almost instantaneously after. It takes time, but the body's miraculous began to heal. What didn't begin to heal right after was my mentality, was the emotions, the psychology. I was very much victimized. And that's where I use that word victim, because being targeted by violence, even becoming a casualty, being injured or hurt, isn't synonymous with victimization. It's not. Where they got me and why I say that I became a victim was because they broke something in me mentally and emotionally. They created a fear in me that I'd never felt before. They created an anxiety. Every time I went out, there was an anxiety because there was a self-doubt. There was, I manifested that a lot in an anger. In just, you know, a disproportionate response to anything. I became super defensive, all these different things. And I think a lot of people can relate to this, even if they haven't been in a really major violent assault. When we are, you know, bullied, when we are threatened, when we are made to feel helpless because of physical aggression or physical violence, it's a sliding scale. But these things start to erode. This is what starts to take place in us. The physical body can handle a certain amount of injuries. And I mean, a lot of people have heard that before. The physical injuries will heal if we're lucky and fortunate enough to survive it. But it is the mental and the emotional. Now, here's the main thing I want to share with you about. Nobody ever told me it was going to be this way. You see, I'm going to share with you in a couple more points. We're going to go a little deeper on this. But this is what changed me. I recognized when I remember standing in the bathroom, looking in the mirror, not being able to recognize my face. It wasn't the physical that hurt. It wasn't the physical that got me. Not recognizing my face, something in me, I remember saying these words, you know, nobody told me it was going to be this way. You know, I believed that I knew how to defend myself. I believed that because I was training, because I was studying fighting, that fighting was violence. But nobody told me what it was. And at the end of the day, here's what I want to share with you. How those guys broke me, how they made me a victim, how they surpassed or blew through all of the training that I'd had, everything that I knew about fighting, how they did this to me was they used intent, not technique. And I've no one had ever taught me that. You see, we are taught, we grow up in a society where aggression is part of it. Antisocial aggression is part of it. And we learn to navigate those waters. But the one thing I want to share with you is that most people, like me, the mistake we make is that it's a game that we play. There's rules, there's parameters. There's a sense of fairness. And the prison systems are full of individuals that they're not wired that way. See, they didn't learn and they don't study antisocial aggression. They study violence and they use it like a currency. Those three gentlemen that started the assault, and then it mutated, and they had a couple of their friends that jumped in, and then they had a couple innocent people out of the group of 150 who thought it looked like a good time, so they joined in. You see, out of those three main guys, I know because of what happened after, none of them had a single day of training. None of them. But what they understood was the intent. They saw me. They thought I was somebody else. The second they saw that, the difference between a socially aggressive people and violent people is they develop on the spot a spontaneous plan based off intent to hurt me, if not kill me. They were not going to lose. They knew they had the numbers, and when they came in, one grab. The one guy didn't grab me and try to punch me. The one guy grabbed me and held me. The second guy grabbed a bottle. He didn't try to punch me. He didn't try to kick me. He grabbed what he knew would give him a physical advantage over me, and that bypassed and blew any training out of the water that I'd had. Because I'd never sat in a ring of all the hours that I spent sparring and training and studying, I'd never had someone bottle me in the head. Nobody ever told me it was going to be that way. The suddenness of it. It was like a professional quarterbacker hiking the ball, and it was like a blitz. I mean, it was like, 400-pound linebackers coming at me. The third guy, you get the picture of where I'm going. See, nobody told me it was going to be that way. And I want to share with you, this is the main point. I'm going to carry this point through a little bit tonight, but I want you to understand something. We as a society are making it very difficult to have conversations about violence. We keep wanting to pull it back or confuse it and talk about antisocial aggression. Because antisocial aggression is part of our world. People are upset with us, they get mad at us, they yell at us, they say things that are inappropriate, they have all these different things. They're rude, inappropriate, aggressive, and yes, sometimes they even get up to violent. It escalates up to that. But we are playing this game. And when we are in this game, we believe that there's a rules of fair play. But there's a segment that exists outside of that game. And they see the game, they understand the game, and they see how that weakens us. So all I want to do with this first point is I want to tell you that nobody ever told me it was going to be this way. And maybe you know this, maybe not. I want to tell you that violence is not part of that game. There's no sense of fair play in this. And the thing that we have to really worry about is not the techniques. I don't have to worry about a punch and a kick. It's not a punch and a kick, and it's not a double leg takedown, and it's not a power slam. All those things could hurt me. All those things could even potentially kill me. But when we get focused on the techniques, which a lot of people are obsessed about, there's a part in here about the physical stuff, but let's leave that for a second. When we get focused on that, we're focused on the wrong thing. We're stuck right where the bad guys want us to be, focused on the wrong thing. It is the intent that they use, the desire and the willingness to cross all boundaries, social, moral, whatever it is, cultural, physical, and they use intent. And they do it with no hesitation. And I don't want you to learn that the same way I learned that, waking up in a hospital room, looking at yourself in the mirror, not recognizing your own picture, or worse yet, going to visit a family of your member, a member of your family in the hospital, and not recognizing them, and being blown away at the atrocity of all this. Not to mention the fact that 150 people stood around watching this, because they were as paralyzed as everybody else at what real violence can look like, not antisocial aggression. So that is my step one with it, was to share that with you. Now I want to move in. Like I said, we're going to move quick. I want to be really respectful of your time. But step two is this. You have the right to remain silent. And this is going to tie in. I'm going to build off step one, but you have the right to remain silent. If you get the concept, and I know you do, that I just shared with you, that the individuals that I really want to talk about, the things we have to worry about, is the people that are playing outside of this sense of fair play, outside of antisocial aggression, and these people are violent. And it is intent that should scare the hell out of you. That people can have the intent to hurt you so quick and so fast. Now, one other side of this is because we live in this society, and it's, trust me, it's a good thing. There's lots of parts of the world that antisocial aggression is not, they expect violence. In North America, especially here in Canada, we're more programmed to expect antisocial aggression than we are direct and hardcore violence. But because of that, I have seen over 25 years, you have the right to remain silent as one of the #1 blocks that prevents people from wanting to talk about or study violence. What does this mean? Everybody believes that if you were to do something to physically defend yourself, you will be charged, you will be convicted, and you will end up with a criminal record, and you will spend time in jail, and you'll lose your job. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and tell, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to stand up, I've studied this for 25 years, but I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that that has never happened to somebody. But I want you to understand something and put this in perspective. that argument is so overused and so blown out of proportion and so misunderstood, and it prevents people from actually learning and studying violence. Couple quick things. I'm going to throw this one in there. If you study violence, you do not become violent. The study of violence actually allows you to live a much more peaceful life because you understand it. You understand intent. And when you do that, it's so much easier to see it and avoid it and take actions before it becomes that. But here's the thing. I want to share one story with you because this alone could turn into a 10-hour lecture. Okay, it's a deep subject. And I don't want to just skim it. I want to give you something powerful. But here's this. I want to share a story that happened. I was at a very popular, very public rec center. I don't want to say which one, right? But I was there, and I was the middle of the day. It was probably about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I was there, and I was, working out, and there's, it was full of probably 100 people, whatever it is, just a busy gym. And there's a gentleman there, and he was East Indian, I believe, and he was working out. Now, he was maybe 28 years old, and he was just doing his thing, working out like everybody else was. And there's another gentleman there, and the only reason that I bring up his ethnicity, and I'm going to say the other gentleman was Caucasian. And the only reason that is important because it became very clear very quick that the Caucasian gentleman didn't really care for the East Indian gentleman. And there was definitely a lot of racial slurs and a lot of racial undertones. And so what happened was this poor East Indian gentleman is going around doing his workout. And every time he finished with a piece of equipment, every time he finished anything, this other gentleman walked up to him, got right in his face, and was so belligerent, so rude, so aggressive, so vile, so inappropriate. It's everything you could ever imagine. And at first, this gentleman tried to just kind of shrug it off. He tried to be like, hey, man, listen, I don't want a problem and stuff. And he moved to a whole different part of the gym. This guy just followed him. And this went on for probably 3 or 4 minutes by the time the gentleman realized, listen, I'm just going to leave. And he was stepping to walk out. And every time this guy talked to him, you could see escalation happen. And now this gentleman, this Caucasian fella, walked over, got in front of him, stopped him from being able to leave. And I could see clearly, they were standing now 10 feet away from me, right in front of me, that he had escalated to a different level. And his pacing and his body mechanics and everything was telling me this was about to become an imminent threat. It was in this moment that this East Indian fella, I think he felt this or recognized this, got a sense of it. And he ended up having to, he kind of punched the guy in the face. Now, it wasn't a great punch. It wasn't like that. But he could feel this guy was right in his face, and he kind of half pushed him backwards. Now, the point of my story isn't to get into all the details of this, but he ended up, giving the guy a bloody nose. The guy tried to come at him again. He kind of hit him again. And, he defended himself, and then he left. He got out of there. He went to find staff. He took off. He did exactly what he should do. He got egress. He left right away. This guy was really mad because he got embarrassed and all this stuff. So here's what I really want to share with you about the right to remain silent. I finished my work. Everything was okay. The Caucasian fellow left. I saw about 20 minutes later, the East Indian fellow came out, and he was talking to some staff members there. And then I seen him leave. And I finished up, and it's about 10 minutes later. I finish up, and I'm walking downstairs, and here's the police. And the police are questioning the East Indian fellow. I don't see the Caucasian guy anywhere, but I see the two RCMP officers standing there, and they're questioning this fellow. Now, I stepped and I listened for a few seconds. And I heard the RCMP officers ask him, say, listen, can you tell us what happened? What it turns out is that the Caucasian fellow, who now had a bloody nose and black eyes and everything else, he had went and got the police and wanted to press charges, wanted to press assault charges. And I'm sharing this story because this is our greatest fear for many, many people. Somebody is clearly, has racial problems with you. They're aggressive. They're escalating up. They're blocking your ability to leave. All of these different things are going on. But here's this poor guy, and when he's standing in front of these two RCMP officers, you can see how clearly upset he is. And he's still upset from what happened, and now he's shaking, and I'm sure everything that most people think is running through his head too. I'm going to be charged, and oh my God, I'm facing it. And I didn't. And all he kept saying was, I didn't start it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't start it. I didn't know what to do. And the RCMP officers were very nice. They were almost trying to coach him because I think they got a sense of what this other fellow was about, or they looked him up and he had a criminal, or whatever it was. But they were like, just take a breath, explain it. So I stopped and I walked over. And in about 5 minutes, I was able to explain. I said, you know what? Actually, I saw the whole thing, and I was able to go through 3 different things, and that's body language, behavior, and interpersonal communication. These are 3 areas that tell you where somebody's at in escalation. These are indicators that would tell somebody, whether law enforcement, a court of law, whatever it is, that would tell somebody why you actually had to defend yourself and what constitutes self-defense. And the second it did, I've never seen police officers write faster. They were trying to take notes. They couldn't keep up. And at the end of it, the guy said, listen, just can we have your name and number, and would you be willing to come to court or testify or write out a statement if we need it? And I said, absolutely, 100%. They said, awesome, thanks. And they shook the East Indian fellow's hand. He shook my hand. He was like, oh, my God, thank you so much. We walked out of there, and the last I saw, they had that guy in handcuffs in the back of the car. Now, why I shared that isn't because I did something so amazing. It was because here was this poor guy who was being targeted. This wasn't just antisocial aggression. This was borderline and building to a violent assault in the middle of public. But he did what he needed to do to defend himself. But after, he didn't know how to articulate so that other people could understand that it was self-defense. Self-defense is legal in Canada. We have a right to defend our lives, to the right to life, liberty, freedom, security, and not have life, liberty, freedom, security infringed upon. But it is also our responsibility to understand how to articulate that. So the second thing that people need to know about violence is that it's not you defend yourself and now all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to get charged, I'm going to get convicted, and I'm going to jail. It's all of it. Why we think that is because, again, we're thinking about these rules. We're thinking about people that are antisocial. Somebody at work comes up and they say something rude to you. Yeah, we don't punch them in the face. It's inappropriate. People understand when you study violence, like I was able to articulate, you can see it coming, and there's a clear difference. When you understand to look for violent intent, you never have to worry about misusing any type of physical skill that you may develop. You never have to worry about misusing that. Intent by people bound and determined to hurt you or escalating up to a point where they will hurt you is so obvious to everybody who understands what that looks like. But if we're stuck playing the game and we think, listen, this is the middle of the day or this is early evening, there's 150 people in a public gym, this person is not going to violently attack me. This person is just rude, inappropriate, aggressive. He's an a-hole, he's racist, he's all these different things, but clearly he's not going to get me here. I'm sure a lot of people a few Christmases back on December 26th when they're in West Edmonton Mall, the people that were standing around and witnessed individuals use a machete and hack somebody up, wasn't expecting that to happen Boxing Day in the middle of one of the busiest malls in the world. Yet it did. And we've got to understand this. We've got to study it and know what intent, violent intent, looks like. So my second one that I just wanted to address, now this is very deep, guys, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of it to help break down that barrier. It is okay to study violence, to learn what intent looks like. It is okay to defend yourself. That is legal, especially, and that's why we want you to train and understand violence, because you'll never make a mistake. And you will be able to articulate how you knew with 100% certainty that this was imminent, grievous bodily harm or death. That violence was coming. Okay? That's the waters I want you to be able to navigate. Okay, now, if we push off this, I want to throw up a few more boards. And I want to move to the third point. And the third point is something so powerful. I just call this the Superman syndrome. And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I believe a lot of people already understand this. But again, we need to hear this to put it in the right context of understanding for violence. What is the Superman syndrome? The Superman syndrome is this, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that I made because, again, nobody ever told me. I didn't understand what violence really was, and I didn't understand this. You see, like I said, I was interested in martial arts and kickboxing, Thai boxing, ground, anything to do and study about fighting for the purpose of self. I loved it, but I had this perception. And I believe that people that trained and studied fighting, and you look at all my different idols growing up, I believe that these individuals were like, deadly ninjas and these big muscled gladiators that got in the ring and fought and trained, and, elite soldiers, that every soldier was just trained, and just was so deadly and understood violence and aggression, and they were John Rambos. And then, of course, I just had all these misconceptions about these heroes, these people that were protectors. And a lot of people, I think, have this kind of image. And if over 25 years I said that, you know, people fearing being charged and being convicted and going to jail, they fear that, so they don't ever study violence. They don't ever learn to really defend themselves. The other side of it is that a lot of people don't begin to study, to train, to learn, to awaken the protector within them, because they have a perception of what type of person it takes to actually become a protector, to really be able to do that for yourself and your family, your loved ones, your community. And if you're like me, this is what I believe. But here's the danger in this. This creates something in us, and I call it the Superman syndrome. This creates in us a kind of a pedestal image. And see, this is very dangerous. See, this creates a pedestal image. And where's that fueled from? See, TV and movies and social media and all these different things, they all tell us what it is to be a protector, to be, for men out there, to be a man. And for women out there, the same thing. Women are told that you are weaker, that you are inferior, that if a man attacked you, you have no hope of defending yourself. For guys, they tell us the other thing. They tell us, listen, you know John Wayne and John Rambo and John Wicks. Everybody loves the name John for the heroes. But they tell you that that's what it is to be a man. Oh, you might get beat up once, but that's just fuel for you. You take some bruises, you maybe get a broken nose, you end up in the hospital with a busted up shoulder or some of that, but you recover, you come out, and all of a sudden you've got these skills. You got to be bigger, stronger, faster, seek revenge, be able to wipe out 150 people at once. Believe it or not, the whole time I was training, and I was, you know, working in martial arts and as a sparring partner in training, I actually was busting my balls trying to become something that was never going to be obtainable. Every time that I got in and sparred against people and someone was bigger or stronger or faster, it caused me a problem. So I thought, well, listen, I don't see Rambo lose. You know, I don't see, like, I got to just train. I got to become better and better. And you get on this hamster wheel where you think that you're training, and because you train, it makes you better than everybody else. And trust me, listen, in a competitive world, it does. You can have the odd person that trains so hard they become the best of the best. But you know what destroys all that work? Intent. I told you that in the last few years I lost a friend and a father of 4, all kids under the age of 8 at the time. It's tragic. Leaving behind a wife. It was one of the hardest funerals. The gentleman that lost his life was stabbed 5 times. He wasn't even involved in the original incident. He was a trained fighter. He was about to become a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was tough. He was durable. You know, training with him or sparring was like kind of hitting someone made out of titanium. And he had the biggest, kindest heart. He was so gentle. But he saw somebody involved in an altercation. That person was rendered unconscious. He tried to step in thinking, you know, I can defend myself and I'm going to defend this person. That is an amazing human being. And somebody reached through a crowd of people holding a knife and stabbed him 5 times, once in the heart, ending his life. And it's again this thing when I got that call, because I study violence and because I know that he trained and understood and studied fighting, I felt responsible to a degree. I felt like I'd failed him for not building a different filter for him on top of the filter that he had for fighting in sport. If somebody would have tried to take a punch at him, he probably would have taken the punch, tied the guy up, put him on the ground, held him for police, whatever it was. He probably could have done that to 2 or 3 people. The fact that he missed, the fact that he never even thought that somebody would have a knife in a melee like that, the fact that that thought was not in his head. I know it was not in his head because it wasn't programmed to be in his head. Because in my assault, it wasn't programmed to be in my head. My head was to look for punches and thinking that if somebody comes at me, someone's already got to punch or kick me or wrestle with me. But somebody with intent doesn't have to do any of that. They blow by all of that. This pedestal, why this is so critically important to me, is when I got knocked off this Superman syndrome, when I thought I just had to be bigger, stronger, faster, have better technique, when I actually thought that was what would make me the best protector for myself and my family, when I found out about intent, nobody told me that what it was going to be like that. When I found out, the fall from that pedestal, the crash to reality almost killed me. And unfortunately, not all of us, like my friends, survived that. And the rest of us are left there dealing with that. And it's one more time we say, listen, you know, why does this continue to happen in our society? Why can't we talk about this? Why can't we prepare this? Well, we don't want to talk about it because, again, we exist in this kind of game with these rules. And when these people that exist outside of that with a willingness to break all those rules, to go against a moral code or anything that you want to look at it, when they do that, they knock us off this Superman, this pedestal image, this Superman syndrome. The fall will kill us. I was very fortunate because after mine, I said, I willingly tell everybody about it that will listen to me. I became a victim, straight up a victim. They broke me. Not physically, right? That began to heal. They broke me mentally and emotionally. All of a sudden, anybody even said anything to me or looked at me, I became super defensive, and it was just a completely disproportionate. It was an overreaction. It was all an attempt for me to posture and pretend that I still believed I was a man, but I didn't. I believed that I failed as a man. I believed that all of my training and everything, I just wasn't good enough. I wasn't big enough. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't like everybody else that I saw around on TV and in the movies and read about in books. I wasn't like anybody. And then, of course, all your friends at 18 and 19, they all posture because they're all playing the game too. How much do you bench press? How many fights you've been in? How many women you had? All that stuff, that whole game that goes on. But they didn't understand intent. And everywhere I looked, I tried to find somebody to have a conversation about this with who understood it, but nobody did. Neither did I until I was blessed to get connected with an instructor, a mentor. And this gentleman at the time was training the U.S. Navy SEALs out of Virginia Beach. Actually, he was training SEAL Team 6 before anybody even knew what they were or who they were. And that's another story for another time. But I was very fortunate to end up a kid from Edmonton and end up face-to-face with this man while he was home on leave in California. And we sat down and we had a 45-minute conversation that completely changed my life. Why? Because he was the first person to ever explain this to me. Half of my mental trauma came from the fact that nobody actually had ever taught me what intent, violent intent was, and how violent intent supersedes. It's like an ace. It's like a wild card. It supersedes kicking and punching and technique and fighting skills every day of the week and twice on Sundays. But he said it doesn't mean that you don't have, doesn't mean that you can't count, it doesn't mean you can't understand it, but you're playing the wrong game. And what he did was he helped me understand the pedestal image, and more importantly, he helped me to come down off the pedestal image and get grounded in reality. And I want to do the same for you because here's basically what it did. He said, listen, what do you really want? You're training, you're kickboxing, you're doing all these things, you're studying all this, you're learning that, and the physical is a part of it. Trust me, it is. But he said, you're doing all that, why? Because I was chasing the pedestal image. I was looking for the deadly ninja skills. I was looking to be John Wayne in a moment when my life was threatened. I was looking for all that, but he said, listen, what do you really want? And I said, what I really want was very simply, I just wanted to be able to create my own safety. I actually wanted to be able to create my own safety. And he's the first person to say, listen, there are people out there that exist on the fringes, these outliers, that study violence, that use intent. If you want to truly be able to create your own safety, you're already pretty good at navigating antisocial aggression. At the time, I'm 19 years old, 20 years old, sitting in front of this guy, and he says, listen, how many times have you been in hockey scrums or hockey fights or just out in little pushing matches and shouting matches? I'm like, hundreds of times. And how did those work for you? Pretty good, like all of you. I did good. But the one time that I faced an outlier on violence, the one time they blew through what I believed was all of it. They shattered it and almost killed me. And what he did was say, if you want to create your own safety, you've got to study and understand violence. It is separate than aggression. And he said, what else do you want? I said, I want to be my family's protector. He said, that's good, because that's your why. That's what will motivate you to study this and look at this and see it for what it really is and get past my own ego. And then I said, you know what I really want is, I said, I want my fear to stop bending and breaking me. And he said, I can see it in you. I can see the temper and the disproportionate response, and I can see all of the posture. He could see straight through me. And he saw at the core that it was fear that was now ruling my life, and they'd given that to me. See, they didn't just beat me down and give me the physical injuries when those went away. They beat me down and gave me an injury that stayed with me, and that was the mental and emotional victimization. And I know a lot of people can resonate with that. And if I hadn't met my instructors, if I hadn't met people that understood violence, if I hadn't met people that were willing to talk about this and share this knowledge, they told me I was normal. They told me these are the reactions, but he showed me how to walk out of that. I was knocked off this pedestal image. He showed me how to never go back on it again and how to get back up, to have my fear. He showed me and said that, listen, what I want to have the courage to stand against violence. Because now I was terrified. I was terrified of intent. I was terrified of just the prospect that somebody, just with the intent that I don't even know what that looks like. I'd be sitting in a restaurant, and if somebody was becoming aggressive or upset, you could see that. If somebody stood in front of me and went to throw punches and kicks, I could see that. I was okay there. But the intent you don't see because I didn't know what it looked like. So it can come out of nowhere. It can hit me on the blind side. And it's the things you get hit with in life that you don't see coming that hurt the most. That's what hurts the most. It's the things you get hit in life that you don't see coming that hurt the most. So this is what he did for me. He gave me this thing to create my own safety. He got me grounded in a reality that I needed to study violence and that it was okay. As a matter of fact, studying the violence was the thing that was going to heal me. It was the thing that was going to allow me to get rid of the trauma that they left me with, because I would finally understand what they'd done to me and how they were so completely successful. Does that resonate? They were 100% successful in their assault, and I'm not talking about the physical damage they did. They wanted to destroy, hurt, or potentially even kill. I'll never know. Or when you take a bottle and you put it on someone's head and you bash it and you look at it and can't figure out what broke, they were okay if I didn't live. But I needed to understand that. And that's the gift I want to share with people. Just because we study violence and talk about violence doesn't mean we're going to become violent. So the third part of this, the third thing you got to understand is there's this Superman syndrome where we've got to get down off the pedestal. We've got to wake up and really understand that it's not these Supermen and these deadly ninjas and these muscle gladiators. Yes, not what you need to be to understand and study violence and to become and awaken that protector within. The fourth thing that I want to share with you, and this might shed a little bit more light on how that's possible, is something that we call the subconscious protector. You see, there is something, let me just jump right into this because, again, I want to respect your time. The subconscious protector, every single person that is listening to this or that will hear this or that I can ever talk to, I want you to understand that violence is a different thing. It's not the game we're all connected and used to. And I think you get that. But these people, these outliers of violence that exist on the outside, you see, there is something that we are all born with. Everybody's got this. Not everybody's got the capacity to learn the same physical skills, to punch, kick, defend yourself, ground fight, use knives, all that stuff. Not everybody has that same capacity. Everybody can be taught to do something on that level. Very effective. Everyone can be taught something, but not everybody has the same skills. We get that. But you know what we all have? We have a subconscious survival system hardwired into us from birth. Refined and developed over 80,000 years of human evolution. And you're born with a survival mechanism, right? But here's the thing, in North America, we're losing touch with those survival instincts. So what is the subconscious protector? See, everybody has faculty senses. Sight, touch, taste, smell, sound. Everybody's got some of those senses. We have a guy who trains with us and he's blind. He was in a horrific car accident. He lost his sight. So he's not dealing with 5 senses. He's got 4 senses. But can he train? Can he become protector? Of course he can. You see, we have senses. And our senses are how we determine what's happening. It's how we process information that surrounds us in the world, right? But then also we have a nervous system. And within that nervous system, there's a survival instinct, what's called the fight-flight system. And I know everybody's heard that. You know, in a crisis, your body prepares to fight or prepares to flee. But then the third thing that we have that's innate, that is an amazing gift, is our mind. And I know you've all heard that. The mind is the most powerful weapon, right? Of course it is. But let's put these 3 things together and talk about this for a second. You see, the senses, they determine what we perceive and what we deem important or not, whether we sensory gate information or whether we pull it in. The best example of this is the last time you wanted to buy a brand new vehicle, you thought, oh, the vehicle I love, I never see them on the road, it's so unique, I like that. Not everybody has one. Until you bought it. Okay, then you're driving around, you go, damn, there's one, and there's one, and there's one, and there's 3 in the exact same color, and you're seeing them everywhere. Sometimes that happens before you buy it, you just start thinking about buying it, and boom, they're everywhere. Okay, why is that? Because your mind has told the senses that this is now important to you, and it wants to pick up that information and make you consciously aware. What if I told you that your senses were one of the most integral survival mechanisms that human beings have had that have allowed us to survive against hundreds of thousands of alpha predators back in the day when we were completely out, we were scavengers, not top of the food chain. The senses, right? And if you actually understand how to develop your senses to do what I'm talking about. See, I couldn't see or understand intent, violent intent. I didn't understand violence. I didn't understand the outliers. I didn't see the signals and the codes. I could not interpret that. My senses saw nothing. If they had stood in front of me after they hit me, if those 3 guys would have postured up and stood in front of me and started throwing jabs and crosses and stuff, I'd have had a hell of a lot better night. I might not have come out on the top all spit, shined, and polished, but I had a hell of a better night, I'll tell you that, because my senses were dialed in for that. But no, not violence. My senses couldn't see it. But you can create and train and develop this filter that turns your senses into the ultimate spidey senses. Now, I kind of use the ultimate spidey sense because Spider-Man, anytime there's danger, boom, the guy's got the spidey sense going off. We actually have something very similar to that, no joke. But you got to be able to see the outliers and see the violent intent. Because if you're waiting to see the violent attack, to see like the cross coming or the kick coming or the double leg takedown coming, it's too late. The intent is what it feels like, and when they're manifesting the plan to grab you quick, hit you with the bottle, shove a knife in you 5 times, and you're never going to see that coming. But there is an intent. There are cues, and your senses can be trained to pick up on those cues. Is that track for everybody? I hope so. Now, if we get our senses dialed and you say, that's phenomenal, man, I love that. That's what I'm looking for. I want to understand it. I'm good at it. I can understand and navigate antisocial aggression. But it's the violence. What does that look like? What are those threat cues? I want that filter. Here's the next part of it. Your nervous system, the fight-flight, it will mobilize your body's resources in a time of crisis. That is true. I want you to think of it like a million, maybe like a 10 million or 100 million soldiers, and think of each of these soldiers as raw energy. And in a critical incident, when you're in fear for your life, those millions of energy soldiers are going to redistribute. The body wants to redistribute those resources to try to help you survive, make you faster, stronger, more durable, all that stuff, right? We get that? But here's the reality. Most people don't have the senses, so they don't pick up on the threat. And when they do, it's typically they're already behind the 8 ball. They're in a reactive state. And now what happens is the body kicks into full flight mode, and you've got literally millions of energy soldiers running around. But here's the problem. There's no general. The mind regulates the body. It is through the mind that we program the senses and create the ultimate threat assessment, the ultimate spidey sense. It is through the mind that we learn to take our fight-flight system, our nervous system, and learn to put a general in command so that we can regulate all of those little energy resources, and we can make sure that on a physiological, biochemical level, we actually click into a peak state, a state where we actually can and are in an enhanced position to defend ourselves. Now, that's got to make sense, right? But so many people have heard this, so I just black out. I go crazy, I black out. That's not good. That's not autopilot. That is those fight, flight, nervous, those millions of soldiers running out of control. That will get you killed. That will get you killed. We have got to turn the senses into the ultimate spidey sense. We've got to see and understand and know what those outliers of violence look like. How do we recognize intent? We have got to take the nervous system, the fight, flight, one of the greatest gifts we have, one of the greatest resources for our survival, and everybody has it. There is no superior. There's only the individuals that have learned to regulate, that get a general in charge of it. How we do that is to program the mind. And how do you program the mind? You have to run the right software. You have to study violence. You have to have what we call survival software. You got to have a survival software system. This activates your subconscious protector in you. I'm going to move on because I want to keep this moving. I want you to understand the power of this. I just want to pause for a second. Everybody has this. No exceptions. This is why you can take anybody and you can get them so much safer. They can prepare, you can prepare them for violence. Preparing you for violence, believe it or not, is way easier than preparing you for fighting. To prepare you to fight in a cage, in a ring, on a mat, whatever it is, takes so much more time because it takes very specific skills and specific attributes and specific conditioning routines and everything, and a specific mindset and all this type of stuff. It is very specific. It takes years and years and years and years. And I have such a respect for the people that do that. We have got to get the world to understand that, yes, violence is outside of the game that we are familiar with. We know how to navigate anti-aggression, anti-social aggression. We're all really pretty damn good at that. But we don't want to look at, and society hates, if we're studying the outliers, the violent outliers. If we're studying intent. But I'll tell you what, the second you actually start studying it, it allows you to live a more peaceable life because you can activate the subconscious protector just right off the get-go. And if you can see and feel intent coming and building, you leave, you move, you box around the threat, and you bring others with you. Is the physical still part of this? Yes. I absolutely believe that people need to learn and have physical skills adapted for the worst case scenario. You absolutely need that. But think about it this way. The mental is to the physical as 3 is to 1. The mental in this part is 3 times, if not 5 times more important than the physical, because this is avoidance. This is how you see it. This is how you regulate, stay calm, get in the right state, control your mind, know what to do, know what to say, know how to move around it. This is where we begin. And this is easy. Really, it actually is very easy to get people there, and then you adapt the physical. So that is the subconscious protector. The 5th and final point I want to make with everybody tonight is that violence does not discriminate. Now, I get you understand what I mean with this, but I want to go in a slightly different direction than probably you're thinking. So let's address what everybody's thinking. Violence doesn't discriminate. Violence doesn't care how old you are. Violence doesn't care how fit you are. Violence doesn't care if you're sick, if you've got a disability. It doesn't matter what gender you are, what race, religion, creed, color. It doesn't matter what you eat. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you live in a neighborhood with every house is worth $1 million. It doesn't care. Violence does not discriminate. But I want to go one deeper with this, and I just started to set it up with the subconscious protector. If violence does not discriminate, you know what else cannot discriminate? The protector within. You see, the ability to take knowledge about violence, the study of violence, the things that we need to share with people to actually have them activate that subconscious and that protector within them. We need to make sure that we never discriminate. And right now, there is a form of discrimination that is not overt. Nobody, I don't think, means to do this. There's nobody out there working saying, I want to make sure that people don't understand this stuff. We don't want to look at it as a society. And built into that, we will study fighting, we will watch fighting and aggression and sports, and we're all comfortable and okay with that. Not all of us, but most. But it is the violence, so you cannot discriminate. That means that every single person watching this, because violence won't discriminate, then you can, and you are, and you have within you a protector. That's why we're all born with these hardwired survival skills. That was not handed out to only the rich. The central nervous system, the ability to have the senses to perceive violence, and the ability to regulate and have a fight-flight model was not discriminated against. It did not skip the poor. It did not skip women. It did not skip men or cultures or whatever it is. Our survival systems and our survival instincts and our ability to study, learn, and grow and actually become a protector, not a fighter. That's up to you. It's a personal journey. To become a protector, we must not discriminate. I think that makes sense to most people. So how does that happen? I was taught something very simple. I was taught what was called an unconventional X quality. Get past the conventional. Conventional to us is the study of fighting. It's the study of martial arts. It's the study of all stuff. There's so much value there. I'm not saying there's no value to be extracted from that, and there's a high level of respect, but the unconventional is because we want to study the outliers. We want to prepare for violence. And that's what we want. And what they shared with me, what he changed when he got me to come down off that pedestal image was that there was 4 kind of group things. There was a mindset that you needed to do this. There's tactics. When it comes to violence, when you see a threat, when you see somebody that is violent and has that intent, and you now can recognize that, there are tactics for how we can remove ourselves, for how we can help remove others, for how we can de-escalate or deflect or whatever it is. There's all those tactics for that. And yes, there are tactics for how we can circumvent violent assault. Not fight against violent assault, but circumvent it, cheat, go around it. Don't play fair with it. They're coming at you with an intent thinking you're going to have a sense of moral fair play and you're going to get blindsided by raw intent. There are tactics to get around that. There is specific tools that work very well for when we're talking about violence and dealing with people when we're outgunned and outmanned, the bigger, stronger people who, again, believe that they're going to catch us on the blind side because we don't know violence, because we're anticipating antisocial aggression. We're anticipating a fight when their intent is to kill. There are better tools, and we got to understand those. And there, of course, are specific attributes to making this all work. But all of these 4 things have to be run through survival software. It is the mind. It is how we perceive what we want. It is the meaning we attach to things. And after my assault, the meaning that I put for so long, I kept trying to find meaning to make sense of why my training, my fighting failed me. I tried to rationalize it and justify it and make excuses for it. But the only person that, you know, matter of fact, the only person that wasn't falling for it was me. I kept selling it, and I think a lot of people around me bought into it. Oh, yeah, they got lucky, you know what I mean? Yeah, I got a lucky punch, and then lucky I slipped, and yeah, I was having a bad, yeah, I drank too much, and I was this, and I was that. None of it was true. Everybody else might have bought it because they don't want to look at the realities of it either, because it's scary. It's scary that there's people out there walking around that just of a whim, you cut them off accidentally in traffic, or you happen to lock eyes with them in a restaurant or a pub or at an Oilers game or something like that, and they lose it. And they go to this place, this outlier of violence place, even if it's never been in their history before, they snap. Why? Because people today are living under the influence of not just drugs and alcohol, but depression and fear and anxiety and the pressures of this world. But the point is that we need to run it through the right software, but all of that adapts to every single person. And this is where we say you cannot discriminate. There was no discrimination on who can be a protector in this world. The elderly, can they do it or not? Yes. Do they have senses? Yes. Do they have a fight-flight nervous system? Yes. Do they have a mind? Let's hope, yes. So long as we've got control of our faculties, so long as we still got our mental fortitude, so long as all those things are there. I don't care if you're in a wheelchair. I don't care if you're overweight. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a kid. I don't care if you're a woman with kids. I mean, what does it matter? Tell me who can't protect themselves. Only those that choose not to. Only those that buy into some skewed Superman syndrome. For men, it tells us you don't need to study violence. Just be bigger, stronger, faster, more powerful, get better kicks and better punches. Problem is, I know tons of guys that are stronger than me and faster than me and bigger than me. So I can't keep chasing my tail in that game. For women, it's the opposite. They tell you you can't win. You can't survive. You can't be big enough. You can't outthink them. You can't outsmart them. You can't this. You guys get this, right? We can't be controlled by that. This must adapt. Violence does not discriminate, and therefore the solution will not and cannot discriminate. That is our passion and purpose in this world. I said that I wanted to share 5 things with you. These are the 5 things. Nobody told me it was going to be this way. I genuinely hope that you understand that violence is something completely different that comes from this outlier, and it's the intent. The right to remain silent. I hope you understand that you have a right to life, liberty, freedom, and security that has been fought for, died for, bled for by people to give us that right. It's not a right you're just born with and it was always there. People have fought for that. Learn about it. Self-defense is legal, especially from violence. If you study and understand violence, you're never going to mistake it. You're never going to use counters to violence, physical or otherwise, at the wrong time. You will not apply those to aggression and end up being charged. It won't happen because you're going to actually understand what it is. Okay, the Superman syndrome, please get past it. Understand that everybody can be a protector. Stop feeding into the image of what we must be. Okay, understand that the subconscious protector, everything you need, that is easy and that is different than training you to be a fighter. It is easier and simple to awaken that protector within you. That is our movement. And the final thing is, of course, that violence does not discriminate. Therefore, neither does the solution. It is here for you. Now, this is the end of the webinar and the presentation, and I tried to keep it to an hour. There's a ton of information. I hope it didn't go too fast. I know you guys are intelligent. I know this made sense to you. What I want to do is this. I don't want to leave anybody with more questions and more concerns than they have answers. So this was the presentation, and if you got value out of this, that was my purpose tonight. And please share this and tell people about us. We want to spread the word and have conversations and so on and so forth. But the other side of it is I've also put together something for everybody that I believe with all of my heart. It's been 25 years of training and studying and flying around the world and trying to accumulate this knowledge and stuff. But I put together something that I believe does exactly this. It's the start point, is the foundation for getting people to start to train and awaken the protector within. And if you're interested in that, I like to take literally 7 minutes and I'm going to share it with you. And I call it the Ultimate Transformation Academy. And it is something that people can start instantaneously. It's a combination of online training. You can do it all online, or you could come and connect with us. It's a whole thing. So if you want it, let me know. I think Christy already said we have a hell yes, so let's do it. All right, let's go through this fast, and I'll get through this in 7 minutes or less, everybody. So What it is this.
It was just a yes.
I put together, okay, sorry, just a yes, I added the hell yes, I got excited. What I did was this. I thought, what do we need to get the results? Let's get rid of all the crap. What's going to get people the results? Something they need access to, they can saturate to, they can own this and access it from their car, their work, their couch, whatever it is. And this is what I came up with. I'm just going to slide this out of the way. This is based off everything that I do with people live and in person the last 25 years. All of our training is usually conducted privately, no more than 8 people, but here it is. This is the Ultimate Transformation Academy. What I threw into it was the first 3 things that I know we absolutely have to have. That ultimate Spidey sense. We need to awaken the subconscious protector. So I threw in the ultimate Spidey sense blueprint. It is 3 modules of lectures to develop your threat-based perception of the world, to see and recognize those outliers, those violent outliers. I put in the fear to fuel. How do we regulate the fight-flight system? How do we actually get control of that? That is all in there. That is another 3 hours of material that you can access anywhere and learn that. The unconventional X survival system. This makes the 2 work. This is the software. Well, how do we need to think about violence? How do we actually learn to take control over these 2 areas? Those 3 systems are in this. Now you can see off to the side that when we sell these things separately, they're about $300 a program. Clearly for this, I wanted to put together something that made this a no-brainer because this is a passion. You want to start a global movement with this. So $300, that's already, that's not what I'm going to charge you though. So let's keep going off this. The next thing I put in there is I thought, okay, if we've got the Spidey sense going, the fear to fuel, we're regulating the fight-flight system, we've got the software going, we've activated the subconscious protector. But what happens if we see it? We see these outliers, we see the violence, but we can't remove ourselves, or somebody there, innocent, or a child, or somebody there, and we're like, we need to do something. I wanted you to be able to start some physical training. This is very different than learning to fight. This is not about making you a ring fighter, a cage fighter. This is different. This is based off the program that they were working with the SEAL teams. Very different stuff. But I did a 7-week online course, and I did it in 30 minutes a day. So 49 days. If you buy into this, you have access. You own this. You don't rent this. You don't download it for a week. You own this. You can start and go through and work 49 days, and we walk you through. Give me 30 minutes a day, and I'll give you the results. So we put in that physical. I also said, you know what? Let's give everybody a live 3-day induction. We do a 3-day course here that'll change your life. It is all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no more than 8 people. We walk you through all of this. It's the in-depth lectures, the physiology, it's the physical tactics. I said, let's throw that in there because if people want, let's give them up to a year to come and train with us if they want. If you want to access all at home and work through it, it's there. If you want to come see us, it's there. What else do we throw in this? I've been working for 25 years. This is one of the things that helped me out. I put in a program that's called Core Warrior Psychological Development. It is the blueprint for how you move beyond just even talking about violence and physical, but how this type of training unlocks a deeper human potential. Some of the best people that I've met, not just warriors, not just protectors, some of the best people, the most selfless, the people that are out there changing the world in every level have come from this type of culture, this type of protector training. This is a program, it's a video and audio program that you can listen and go through that unlocks that. We do a communication course because, again, the line between antisocial aggression and outliers of violence can be right there. It's a gray area at times. How do you verbally communicate and de-escalate? How do you, if you work in pretty much any job and industry, you want to understand how to de-escalate very difficult, rude, inappropriate, or aggressive people. This course is massive, and actually in January, this course is blowing up internationally. We're starting by launching in Houston, Texas. It's about a 4-year-old program, and it's gotten so much traction, man. It's working great, and you get all of that. By the way, each of these, the 7-week online, the 3-day live induction, those are normally $1,500 a piece. The tactical communication is $650. We wanted to throw in a family-first survival system. We're actually still finishing this. This course just got deeper because we started investing in the younger generation and being proactive. When this system is done, you will get this uploaded onto this Ultimate Transformation Academy, and it is for couples. How do we prepare for violence as a family unit, as partners? And how do we start to talk to our children? I'll tell you the one thing, and this will sum it all up. We do not, I'm a parent, 2 young daughters. If you're a parent, we do not want to raise the next generation of victims, and unfortunately our society is doing that in a lot of ways. We must start to educate them so that we do not raise the next generation of victims. This course is going to be your step-by-step guide for that. Now, on top of that, like I said, I wanted to say what is going to guarantee results. So I threw everything in there. We threw in a conditioning one. Just say, how do I, if you feel like you want to get in better shape, specific to how to defend yourself and your family, and combat conditioning programs in there. We're going to throw in and send you 2 rattan sticks. The 2 rattan sticks are just what you're going to need to go through the 7-week course. It's the only piece of physical equipment that you're going to need. The 7-week course was done so you can do it in your kitchen, man. You can do it out in your front yard. Everything you need is in this. Now, I wanted to throw in a bonus, and that first bonus is my wife and I did an Empowering Women program. I believe every young girl, every woman needs to hear this. My wife went through a tremendously difficult upbringing and had experiences with violence, tremendously deep experiences with violence, and she has come through physically, mentally, and emotionally. Her and her mother stronger than anyone I've ever met, and that was, she got there before I even met her. It's one of, I'm so proud of her, and she really spearheaded this, and it was because of people that are willing to have these conversations that, she got the confidence to want to step out and put herself out there, and I want to share that with you. This is an amazing program. The next thing I did was 2 things that I thought are actually priceless. The first is that we are creating and building a community. This is a global movement. I want to give anyone that joins in this, that wants to become part of this movement, I want to give you access to a private Facebook group that we have if you're on Facebook. And this group is where you can connect, where you can get questions answered, where you can, have conversations, where you can share and expand and go through things with us. And so I wanted to offer that to people. And the third bonus is really intense, man. We are a tribe of like-minded individuals that want to study this, that want to become and create our own security and protection to be our family's protector. We have an inner circle group. And I wanted to offer anyone that is interested in this access to the inner circle group. That's normally about $8,500 a year. I wanted to offer this because I don't want anyone to feel like, they're alone. Here's the statistics. 70-30 split. 70% of people that come to us, it's after an assault, they're trying to work their way back. 30%, something happens. They're about to be a parent for the first time. Something's happened to a family member. Something around them rocks them, and they go, I want to be somewhat proactive. I want to get it the other way around. I want 80%, 90% coming to us before, not the other way around. So I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're alone, or they don't ever feel like they're going through all this and they're overwhelmed and don't know where to start, or something's unique about your circumstances, physically, mentally, whatever it is. I want you to have access to us. So we join you into our inner circle, and you have access to myself and all of our top instructors, as well as my network of mentors and combat professionals, that whatever you need is going to get answered. So let's cut to the chase of all this. What did I build this out for? If you guys look at this, if I piece this out, it's about $14,000. Clearly, I'm not charging anybody $14,000 to get all of this. This is the first time that we've ever said, let's put it all in one. So what I want to do, really simple with it, I said, let's just break it down and say, what's a no-brainer for people? So our special offer, everybody watching this webinar for joining me and having this conversation, is a one-time offer of $497. That's it. You pay the $497, or you can even do 3 payments of $197. I wanted to make sure that everybody had equal access to this. You do that, you instantaneously get access to the Ultimate Transformation Academy. That's it. All of this is yours. You pay it, you log in, you create your password, boom, you're in. All of these lectures, all of these videos, everything's in there. Plus, you can come back. You got the blueprint, the Spidey system, the fear to fuel management. You can come to a live course with us. You got the 7-week online. If you just thought for 1 second, though, that just studying and recognizing intent, stop looking for a fight and seeing the punches and kicks, but you understood and had the Spidey sense to see violence coming, to see a threat, and you were able to get your family out of there. You can teach this to your kids. It works against bullying. It works against everything, man. But to pass it on, that's worth it. That's totally worth it. But I wanted it to be a no-brainer. So how do you do it? Very simple. All you have to do if you're interested in this is you have to type in at the top of your URL, awakentheprotectorwithin.ca. That's it. If you type in www.awakentheprotectorwithin.ca, you'll go there, and what you'll see is the ability to pick a one-time payment of $497, or you can click and do 3 payments of $197, and it's done, and you're in, and you get instantaneous access to the Ultimate Transformation Academy. You get the Ultimate Spidey Sense Blueprint, the threat perception, the fear to fuel, the fight-flight system, the unconventional X survival, the 7-week online induction course, 3 days live course. If you want to come train with us live, you got a year to do that. the core psychological development, the tactical communication, the family first, the combat conditioning. You get the training stick. It's the only equipment you need. Then you just can do it anywhere you want. You get the bonus Empowering Women's video. You get access to our private Facebook group. You get access to us in the inner circle. If you want it and need it, we're there for you. And all of that at awakentheprotectorwithin.ca for $4.97. Listen, I tried to do that in under 12 minutes. I hope I didn't blow through it for everybody. If you have questions, time to me is the greatest gift. You never get it back, and I generally appreciate your commitment to spending this time with me. I hope that I've been able to share value with you. If you have questions, if you're on Facebook and you want to jot in a question, I can answer that. If you are watching us on YouTube Live and you have a question, put it in and I'll answer. If you are joining us because you registered, I sincerely want to thank you for registering and taking the time to join us here tonight. If our box is down and you can't type a question in there, then please reach out to me at greg@urbancombat.ca or text me 780-267-2078. That's our office number. We'll get that text and I'll respond to you there. Otherwise, everybody, I want to thank you again for your time. Remember, the Ultimate Transformation Academy is there for you. We've got to, violence does not discriminate, and neither does the solution. There is no such thing as a Superman that does this or a Superwoman that needs to become protected. It does not discriminate. It is within every single one of us, and these are the tools there for you. They're here for you to use. This will get you those results. This is not about training you for a competition. It's about training you to awaken the protector within. So one last time for me, everybody, it is awakentheprotectorwithin.ca.
When does the offer end?
The offer ends, actually, very good question, Christy. We only run this offer till this Sunday at midnight. So today is Thursday, so Sunday at midnight. This offer closes. This offer changes often, and that is it. So you have these next few days to get in on the Ultimate Transformation Academy if you're interested in that. Sunday at midnight, it shuts down. Awakentheprotectorwithin.ca. One-time payment of $497 or 3 payments of $197. All right, everybody, I'm going to check one last time with Christy. If there's no questions or concerns, if everybody feels good and checklisted, we're all seem to be good and thumbs up. Thank you, everybody, again for joining me tonight. And please, as always, everybody, until next time, please stay safe.
Facebook is done.